Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Inforunners podcast. And today we're doing a buyer's guide on the Hammerhead. This ship literally hit the nail on the head. I'm Dazine was here.
This is Hayes.
And I'm Execute.
And this particular ship is what everyone has been wanting. I'm pretty sure Hayes and Execute will regale us with stories of the Polaris entry and what they expected.
Well, around this time last year, the Polaris was on sale, and everyone wanted a gunship. They were, complaining, oh, it doesn't have enough guns, or it doesn't have enough firepower. They wanted essentially what the Hammerhead is today. Maybe CIG listened to that, and maybe that's why we have the Hammerhead on sale now.
And it also looks like the Scimitar.
It does, and I'm happy they took inspiration from that. It's a bloody good looking ship.
Yeah, I have to totally agree on those 2 points.
It's also a very important ship. Not only popular, we were desperately needing a proper gunship in the 80 to 100 meter lineup that was actually proper military. I mean, here people are considering Phoenixes and Constellations and thinking a Retaliator can do actual defensive patrols or, other things. None of these ships fit the role. I mean, between the Vanguard and the Polaris, you had a Retaliator, and it's not fit to purpose to defend. It is a purpose-made attacker.
It's a stealth bomber as opposed to a bomber. It's a pretty big difference.
Yes. And the big thing is, this ship really does fill that role. It may be a little bit pricey compared to what it probably should be more towards, but it's definitely a good halfway point for someone that doesn't want to fully go in and get a Polaris, because it does that perfect convoy defense, because it has that basically PDS for your convoy, and it's also great for being paired with many different ships.
There's sort of a anti-fighter screen, anti-missile and torpedo. It's anything that's smaller than it. That's what it kills.
Yeah. I think that's really accurate, and I think the price of it, in regards to its price, is probably based on the fact that they knew that we wanted this ship this time last year, so they've priced it knowing that it will sell.
Well, at $550 for the war bond, it's a better deal, but once you start paying $650 for the credit version on the CCU, it starts to $100
get a
more.
Polaris.
You get a Polaris, and
yeah.
I know there's people who don't want a Polaris, but for what the Polaris offers, its size, its components, its weapon systems, it's hard to make that comparison. I guess it depends whether you get the war bond or the credit version as to whether it's worth getting the Polaris or not.
It depends on what you want to do, too, because the Polaris is more of an attack craft. It's also more versatile because it has the fighter bay, which you can use for refueling smaller ships. It has missiles so it can hit above its weight class, and it has actually a very good spread still of weapons to deal with conventional guns. So
they're very similar,
it has everything.
Because they have the same missile complement. The Polaris has about half the firepower in turrets as what the Hammerhead has, and then it still has the support bay. But if anything, one has strengths and weaknesses the other one covers for the other. Like the Hammerhead is the reverse of the Polaris, and they've talked about those two ships working in tandem together as a team as opposed to fighting
butter
off
and jelly.
against. Yeah, better together.
It's like you said, the Hammerhead can kill everything below it, where the Polaris seems to kill everything above it.
I forgot if you want $100 off a Polaris, buy a Warbond Hammerhead and CC to a Polaris, because that's $100 off a Polaris, $650. That's a good deal. If you want.
Well, that's assuming that they don't raise the Polaris price a little bit. But the thing is, as great as the Hammerhead is, because it fills that role really great, it has one really big detractor, and that is how they utilize the space on the inside of this stupid ship. First of all, there's a giant hole in it, which I don't understand why that's there. And then the hallways.
They punched out the hole, and now there's another ship they haven't shown us yet, which is the hole.
All cops love donuts, so they just put it into the ship. That's
you do the Homer Simpson one though; it makes it go faster.
Donuts. Is there anything they can't do? Anyway.
But
All
I
right.
suppose, like, the Hammerhead versus the Polaris, like, who wants to buy a Hammerhead as opposed to someone who wants to buy a Polaris? When you think about the Hammerhead, it's someone who wants to go in and they want a gunship. They want to leave pirates in a red mist. They are looking to get into a fight and not have to spend money on torpedoes and ammunition. And they're willing to sacrifice the utility and larger variety of roles in order to just go out there and shoot the shit out of something.
That said, smaller ships are going to be more common than large ships, so I actually start to wonder which ship will be used more, this or the Polaris, just based on the fact that there are more people using smaller ships.
Oh, being a smaller ship, it's much more versatile. It would go with the more lower range of dangerous space or smaller convoys. This has an advantage over the Polaris in that it can provide escort more cheaply.
Yeah. And I also mean, though, that most other people will be in smaller ships because they're cheaper and more frequently available. So therefore, this will probably get more use than a Polaris that is more tailored towards larger capital ships, which you're not going to see as frequently. So I actually start to question whether this ship will get more use. It'll be interesting to see what develops.
I would say it really depends on what you're doing and wanting to focus on still, because I see the Polaris being way more versatile in convoys and protection because you scare things that are above it. But I actually see this ship being used actually with the Polaris. You have a Polaris and this in a decent sized convoy. You have all of your bases covered. You have the Polaris to go and deal with the big ships. You have this to deal with the small ships. And you also have the Polaris as your platform for support. So that way you have everything covered, because that's the biggest weakness of the Hammerhead. It doesn't have that extra utility.
And it's like you said, the Hammerhead's more made to use with other ships. It covers for other ships. It's a defensive ship as opposed to the Polaris, which is a purely offensive sort of a ship. And whilst they work well together with a Polaris and a Hammerhead, think of putting a Hammerhead with an Idris or a sort of javelin to sort of thin out. That neither of those need the tactical capacity. They're more scared of being overwhelmed with fighters or being able to put down torpedoes that are going to sink them. This is a great support ship for most larger capitals as a protection.
It seriously reminds me of that one gunship on the Expanse. That's really what it reminds me of.
No, likewise. All right, I think that'll be everything for today, yeah?
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
It's a great ship. I love what it is. I can see a lot of people buying this. I can see it being very popular. If this is a ship for you, you probably already know that you want to buy one. You're just waiting and trying to
decide, yeah.
Well, guys, we do read your comments, so please leave any comments you have below. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to see a larger conversation of this, please check out our day 2 video in which we discuss on this ship forever.
Yeah, we go off the
deep end.
Yeah,
we also did a buyer's guide on the Hawk today as well, so check that out as well.
As always, we'll catch you around.
See you around.
Bye.